Sunrise Extra. Thank you guys for clicking, joining us in our live chat every day here on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. We are talking about an interesting topic, I think, of trends in cannabis use among older adults.
There's a headline.
In the United States. That's a very boring headline, but kind of an interesting topic. So there's new numbers out that say there's been a 75% increase in older Americans trying, using, smoking weed than 3 years before.
Or using it in any way, shape, or form.
But when you really look at the numbers, so there's been a huge increase, but the percentage is still extremely small. So it was 0.4% of adults 65 years and older were using pot in 2006. So a long time ago, way before anything was legalized. 0.4%. Now it's gone up to 2.9% in 2015 and 2016.
Percentage-wise, that's a jump.
It's a big jump of a tiny, tiny percent.
We're talking about old people. That's me.
You're not 65. Okay, so the Today Show did a story. They interviewed several people about why they like it, maybe why they don't. Here is that story, then we're going to talk about it.
As America's appetite for pot increases, there's a surprising new demographic driving that growth: baby boomers. A new medical study reveals marijuana use has spiked 75% among people 65 and older in just a 4-year period. Among the groups with the biggest bump, women and those with higher incomes and college educations.
Why do you and why do your friends use marijuana?
I started using it, I guess, as a kind of a counterculture thing, you know, in the 60s. Most of us just use it because it feels good.
Karen Sieb Goldstein works for a national group trying to reform pot laws.
The evolution, I think, of the acceptance of marijuana is right here.
She says marijuana culture, now splashed across magazines at supermarkets and backed by law in at least 30 states, makes it easier for her peers to just admit what they're doing.
And they'll tell me that they're so glad they can get it legally now because their grandson used to get it for them, or, you know, their son used to get it for them, and now they feel better about buying it legally.
At a cannabis conference in South Florida, consumers of all ages try to explain this phenomenon.
A lot of people my age used it in college, and now they're using again that it's legal.
Some in the industry say seniors are being encouraged by their kids to try marijuana as medicine.
They see the problems that their parents are having with pain management, you know, chronic pain, and anything, anxiety and so forth. They're like, Mom, Dad, you've got to try this.
But before you think about lighting up, a word of warning: present-day pot is much more potent than you may remember.
We do know it can cause health issues and interfere with medications. So if somebody's starting to use it, they certainly need to get with their doctor and say, I'm starting to use this. Is there something I should be aware of? Is there certain ways I should do this? And are there certain cautions I should make sure that I'm exercising before I indulge?
And as far as the debate on legalization continues, there was a 2019 Gallup poll on this very issue, and older Americans 65 years and up by 49% believe that there should be legalization of marijuana in this country. Of course, this is a debate that will continue to spark many questions. Guys, back to you.
Thank you very much. So I had misspoke. It's 4.2% of seniors now over 65 use pot.
So still low, 4.2%.
Very low, yeah, but I mean,
but it's up.
It was below,
but
yeah.
Numbers that have nowhere to go but up, I would argue.
Right.
Low, yeah.
He spoke to a woman in that piece that seemed to be smoking pot consistently since the 60s. This story, to me, seems more about people who weren't smoking it before but now are.
Because now it's becoming.
And why are they? You know what I mean? That was the topic of conversation. Then he went and talked to a woman who's never really stopped smoking it for 40 years and asked her why she started. But I think we really want to hear from the people who never did before and maybe now are.
Well, people are weighing in. I'm looking at the live stream. I'll start with Patty Roden. She said, it's my pain meds. So she uses marijuana for that. Absolutely legalized nationwide. Let's see. Teresa Rosser, good morning. She says it's far better than cigarettes. And Tracy Bishop Yerman, one of our regulars, says it was legalized. They are just now openly admitting it.
I think a lot of people, you know, I mean, when I was doing these stories when, you know, in the first couple of years of it being legalized recreationally, there are more pot shops in Oregon than there are Starbucks.
Is that right?
Is that right?
That's true, yes.
I find that, I believe you, but I find it hard to believe.
Isn't
That's
that crazy?
surprising to me.
There's more pot
I both
shops
find
in
it hard to
Oregon
believe and
than
don't
there
believe.
are Starbucks.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe it's more of anything than Starbucks.
So it's on every corner. It's advertised everywhere.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people, you know, like after a while, now that it's been recreational legal for a while,
Well,
you go on a dare, you go in,
Yeah.
you know, you check it out, you try it at somebody's house, or you eat something with it,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot of curiosity. Also, a lot of pain relief. I was looking at the CNN
that's a
health
big
article.
thing to a lot of
yeah,
people.
and people were saying that it helps. It makes them drowsy. They're able to sleep a little bit easier. You know, I mean, again, the FDA has not, you know, ruled on any medical benefits of like CBD or anything like that, but boy, it's marketed like
But
that.
I almost think they're going to be slow to make any bold statements until it's legal nationally. I might be off base on
Well,
that.
they can't
but a
study it,
federal
get federal
agency, I
dollars
would be.
to
I
study
just
it.
don't think they were going to put out a whole lot until it becomes
No, of
nationally
course not.
legal, right?
But and that's the big contention. One of last year's, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Now I'm blanking on her name. She was a doctor who advocated the Knox docs, Rachel Knox.
Yes.
She gave
was
a
great.
big TEDx presentation last year about the way that cannabis impacts your system, and she took us through a history lesson, which off the top of my head I'm not even going to try to recreate, about why marijuana back in the 20s, I believe, was legal, and how because of big pharma it became illegal. And so it's a fascinating journey historically of how we have made it illegal and now it's slowly coming back. But the feds are way behind compared to where many states and many just regular citizens are.
She seemed to speak positively
Oh no,
about it.
100% positive.
100% positive.
That it's one of the biggest kind of, I guess, cons
Yeah.
that there is, in her opinion, is making marijuana illegal.
And I remember that we were sitting next to each other, I think, during that
Yeah,
TEDx
that's
talk,
right.
and it was very interesting. My stream of thought actually hit the brakes when you brought up the fact that there are more marijuana shops in Oregon than there are Starbucks. Now, I'm still doing my research by way of my cell phone, but there was a Business Insider article back in 2015 that said, the headline was, there are more marijuana shops in Oregon than Starbucks and McDonald's.
All right, now you've gone too far.
I did that in my
You've
story.
gone too far
yeah,
now.
doing all the research, because you can look up, you know, count how many locations there are.
That's my next move.
Wow.
The endocannabinoid system is.
Yes.
I looked it up on her website. Actually, she and her family are actually involved in a American cannabinoid clinic.
Her mom and dad.
Yeah, her mom, her dad. Yes, she
I've
gave a
interviewed her
great
several
talk. That
times.
was a fascinating TEDx
Yeah.
talk last spring.
Her and her mom, yes, I've interviewed them several times too. It is, I mean, I'm all, you know,
There she is. Thank you, Director Brian.
If it brings
are you guys all
pain
for it?
relief,
Like, what?
Well, I get, you know,
It brings pain relief, it helps you.
my dad uses
Well, I
it,
mean,
by the
yeah.
way. It's just, and I'm probably a HIPAA violation, except for the fact that he'll go out and say that he uses it because it helps. Like he had,
pain.
he had an incredibly debilitating, still is suffering from an incredibly debilitating case of shingles.
ouch, that can really hurt.
That impacted his trigeminal nerve in the eye, and it's just, you know what? I mean, it's just, he's still dealing with it 5 years later. And medical marijuana and the salves that he uses around the
creams,
eye and stuff help to relieve that
Absolutely.
a little bit.
And there are many, many people with different stories, but the same result is like they say it's helping them.
So it brings relief. Why are we not helping to?
yeah.
I even just
Bring it
like
out
the
more.
people who are like, oh, whatever about the health benefits. I think it's just fun.
Well, that's the thing about this.
Like-
we're talking about more cannabis use among older adults in the United States.
Instead of drinking alcohol.
What would the study look like if this was strictly about using it for recreational purposes? Because this is factoring in all cases.
Right.
And I think obviously it has become more common for cannabis to be prescribed as some sort of medicinal help to people for a number of different reasons. But what if this was just about recreational use?
Well, here's
How
an
much has that
NYU
spiked?
professor who says, you know, people who would never have touched an illegal drug in their life are now experimenting because it's okay. It is like going to the bar and ordering a beer, you know? I mean, it's like drinking, and it's, you know.
People would argue it's safer than drinking.
Right.
Yes.
My gut would argue it would probably be better for me if I was doing that instead of drinking.
Fewer calories?
Well, not the calories.
Well, maybe it makes you eat a lot. But I don't know. I mean, I'm all for it, you know. Like, I helped, my grandpa is not with us anymore, but I helped him get a medical marijuana card years ago. And because he was on, you know, I mean, all kinds of terrible prescription drugs for back pain and all kinds of stuff. And so we went online and we registered him. We got him, you know, hooked up. I mean, this was, you know, years ago. Hooked up with a grower, and when you do the medical route, there's all these hoops you got to jump through. And he, you know, had to have it delivered to his house and all this stuff. And he got off every single pill that he was on.
Oh, wow.
Morphine and OxyContin and all that stuff. And he got it. He's a cook, and so he would get this like pressurized thing, and he'd make his own little tincture, and he'd put it in his coffee and drink in his coffee, and it was like a miracle. He said,
And
you
he
know,
wasn't, I mean, I'm just going to ask you,
he's
he
90
wasn't
years
high
old.
as a kite during all this. It just,
sometimes he would, you know, go off
A
a
little
tangent
bit,
and talk,
okay.
but he was happy and, you know, like, whatever. He's not driving anywhere. He was 90 years old.
But it definitely helped.
But it helped his back a ton.
So interesting.
And whatever, you know, like, if he's having some fun while
Like
doing
that.
it, it's
Yeah,
fine.
sometimes he...
It's fine, you know. You
So
can't overdose on it.
Mike Price says some of my favorite customers are the seniors. They're the realest and they know what they want.
Are you a bud tender? Tell
He
us.
must
Tell
be.
us. You must work at a shop. Yeah, I want to hear about that because I did a story with a company here in Portland that makes, you know, like nicotine patches?
Yeah.
And you put them on your skin and it soaks through your skin?
Yeah.
They're making THC patches that you can put on. It's discreet. You don't have to smoke anything and cough. You don't have to eat anything. You can cut the patch to have just like less effect. And they've been marketing them very heavily. They go to retirement homes and they do, you know, talks of whoever wants to come down and hear the pitch for these patches. And they do them also for CBD, so it doesn't get you high at all, but it is pain relief that's going into your skin and absorbing into your bloodstream to help, you know, it's like taking an aspirin.
But you can get the oil now to put into a hot tub, actually. I know that. I know a few things.
There you go.
So supposedly that's supposed to help relax you that much more. This CBD, what's it called again?
CBD.
Yeah, that. The oil that goes into the hot tub. Maybe I don't know much, Brenda.
Go ahead. Brenda, were you going to?
No, I'm just, I also posted this on my page, so I was just real quick trying to read some of these.
I can share some of the
Hold,
lives.
please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nicole watching this morning. Nicole Vetter Pratt. Good morning. She says, while I do not doubt the medical relief that it provides, as a child of parents who did this when it was very illegal, it impacted my life deeply, and I don't believe she means for the better.
Right.
So Jeff Fisher on my Facebook page says, only 63 years old here. I'm not a pot smoker at all, in part due to an allergy to the smoke. However, as someone with a chronic pain condition, the use of CBD and THC/CBD edibles and tinctures take the edge off my intense pain and also reduces my intake of opioids.
Yeah.
Which is a
Do you want to
fantastic
study
thing.
how bad one is for the body versus the other?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that doing to your your lifespan?
Yeah.
We asked Mike Price, who chimed in a little bit earlier, if he was, how did you describe Mike Price? Is he a...
Oh, bud tender.
Bud tender, thank you. In fact, he is. He manages a shop downtown. He says, we offer what is called a quote-unquote wisdom discount. Loves educating people on how to take care of their pain without the high, or, if they'd rather, with the high.
Options.
A wisdom
like that.
discount. That is genius.
Yeah,
I
high
love
on the
that.
weekends and non-high Monday through Friday.
No, but I mean, gosh, why not?
There's I got to see this real quickly because someone just sometimes I like to pull up the likes
Is
on a
anyone
comment.
texting us yet?
I see angry faces next to Chris Nichols' comment. He says if alcohol is legal, then marijuana should be legal, point blank. But that generated at least a couple of angry faces. People were angry by Chris's comment. I still say
Maybe
good
they
morning
think
to you.
alcohol should be banned.
Right.
Yeah, that could be it.
I can't pull that up. But anyways,
Follow the money.
Ooh, we got a text from Seymour,
that the
Missouri.
truth?
Do you know where Seymour,
Right.
Missouri is, Rod?
I've heard of Seymour, Missouri. I want to say it's south central Missouri, but I'm not
S.
positive.
Hassan texted us. We all want to live in sin anyway. No, why not make everything legal? Thank you for waiting.
We all want to live in
you
sin
better say that
anyway.
loudly.
Is that what you...
we all want to live in sin anyway. Why not make everything legal? I don't know if that's said in jest.
Everything.
Or if that's really.
Oh, Bubba. Bubba, one of our regular texters weighing in.
Bubba's
I
back.
love the smell of fresh marijuana in the morning.
In the morning.
Michael Graham says down with big pharma.
Down with big pharmaceuticals.
You know, a lot of people also make the argument that big pharma and others who are profiting off prescription meds have more reason to treat chronic disease than to research and develop cures.
Yep.
Right? Because they're making money by giving you medicine just to keep you kind of level. But there's less incentive.
Right.
So goes the argument.
Well, there's some people that say that we're never going to solve cancer because it's too much of a big business. And I would say there's probably some truth to that.
That is sad to think about.
But there's a
though.
lot of people that say that.
What do you say to those people, Rod?
Are you a conspiracy theorist,
Stranger
Rod?
No, I'm going to say that I can't. I don't know enough to agree or disagree with him, but I'll listen to the argument.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
No, there's a
lot of people making a lot of money on cancer. Yeah.
I was just scrolling through some of the.
I find myself distracted only because now we're monitoring the texts, monitoring the Facebook feed, listening to what you guys are talking about. It is difficult for a person with ADHD, like I do have, to focus on everything we're doing here.
We need a digital detox.
So here's actually, and I'm just seeing this now, where the question that we're asking everybody on the thing is it time to make marijuana legal nationwide? What do you guys think about that?
I feel like that's an old question. I thought the answer to that was yes. We decided yes on that.
Nationwide.
Yeah, I know. It's not a fact.
I don't have a problem with the states. If all the states want to vote,
Do we know
that's
how many?
fine.
Do we know how many states? Did we cite that
what
in
the
the story?
total we're
Yeah,
up
what the total?
to?
Is
It's about 30, Camera J says.
Approximately.
Is it
So
only about 30?
60% of our country has legalized marijuana. Then.
Here's the deal. I don't smoke pot. I don't use marijuana. I'm not against anyone who does. I have friends that do. I don't know. I don't have any strong reasons why I don't. I just don't like my mind any differently than it presently is. I like kind of keeping it where it's at right here. I tried it when I tried it when I was a kid, so I can't say I never have. I'm just wondering, like those who want to keep it illegal,
medical use.
why? Why do you want to keep it illegal?
Well, I think some people still feel that it can be a so-called gateway. Don't you think that's the argument some people have? That it can be. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think there are still some people who believe it's a gateway
old slogan.
drug, or that any drug is bad, including alcohol.
I think sometimes it's hard to make the shift if that's how you grew up. With that being indoctrinated as in pot is
bad
without any kind of distinction in the levels of drugs. It's just an illegal drug. I think sometimes it's hard for people to pivot.
That must be it, because I would say that there is as much damage out there, from alcohol as there is from marijuana use. I mean, I don't know the percentages, the degrees, but there's a lot of damage done by alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Tremendous.
Tons of, and that is legal. Now, maybe there are some people who think both should be illegal. My point being that I just feel like shouldn't it just be up to the individual?
So here's the map. The green states are recreational and medical. The blue states are just medical. So there's 33 states where medical marijuana is legal, and only 11 states where it's recreationally legal.
Okay.
So
that's more than I would have thought.
It's more, it's definitely.
Than I realized, I should say.
It's happening.
It's just like I don't want my kids. Obviously, I don't want my kids they're only 12. I don't want them smoking pot. I don't want them drinking alcohol. At some point in their lives, they may try to do either one of those things, and when they're adults, I'll be okay if they decide to try that. And I hope to goodness that they use either or both with some sort of sense in their sensibilities, right? But my point is that, I'm okay with it being legal. I'm okay with people, adults that is, making the choice on their own whether they want to use it or not. I just don't see the benefit from trying to keep it illegal in this country.
Well, Mike Barth says, just like everything else, until the government gets its piece of the pie, it's illegal. That's his opinion, and I think
it's taxed, it's heavily taxed right now in each state, but I think, might as well. You would get rid of so many over-the-border problems, probably. I mean, there would be more created by, harder drugs, cocaine and heroin and meth and all that stuff, which is still out there.
But who loses out legally if more people start using marijuana and fewer of the other drugs that they either buy over-the-counter or prescription? Somebody loses out. And I think you do have to follow the money trail. It's who has
Who would
biggest-
vote against it, you mean, of like what interests
or lobby
they
against
have?
it.
Right.
Lobby
Why
against it
aren't
type of thing.
Pfizer and every other, I don't know who every single big pharma company is, but why aren't they pioneering research
I just wonder
on
if
this
like
right
the
now?
people who are going to do it and are doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are, you know, going to stick with the pills, and they're going to probably stick with the pills versus trying that. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the customer base, I mean, I don't know, like, I guess here's the study that says more people are trying it, but
We did kind of knock down the tobacco industry quite a bit. I mean, there was a time where tobacco ads were everywhere. Everyone in the movies was
and now
smoking.
you have vaping.
No, you do, but you know what I mean? America did stand up against smoking, despite all the money that was being made by the tobacco companies, and despite their fights to keep that thing front and center. The Americans, or like the American opinion, in my opinion, did win out on that a little bit. We don't see it popularized anymore. We don't see it used in the movies anymore like we used to. There's all these warnings that come out with it that didn't used to exist. I mean, when I was growing up, you would have thought it was completely A-okay the way people were smoking around me. Like,
But the trend is rising.
Yeah, the
again, is
trend.
it not?
Didn't
The
we
trend
just
is rising
have a
again.
story that it's
The trend is
maybe
rising
we bottomed
again.
out and now it's starting to go back up again?
But is that because of vaping? A new
I would assume
generation?
it's tied, but I think just basic
regular
tobacco
cigarettes?
smoke in the younger generation. I believe there's stories that say that's back on the rise again. And we talked about this briefly, and I said, well, the generation now didn't grow up with all the anti-tobacco campaigning that Drew just made reference to that seemed to win the battle in that day.
You're right.
Yeah.
Where is our present-day Nancy Reagan? Right?
Yeah.
We have Jenny Carlson, who has often commented on the Sunrise Extra feed, but she's doing so today by way of our text line.
Hi, Jenny.
She's
Thanks
usually
for
on the Facebook
texting.
feed. So Jenny texts in with, where's the money to help all these kids strung out and dropping out of schools? Alternative school is exploding, Jenny says. Funding to help the fallout. How many employed or unemployed? How many unemployed or homeless are using to cope?
Are using it.
She says it's not a gateway, but folks are using or losing touch of consequences.
Jenny's always very thoughtful. I can't disagree with any of that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely easier for underage kids to get it now, instead of some guy, friend of a friend of a friend who knows somebody that like back in the day. I mean, you can find it at people's houses. Little kids are getting into it, pets are getting into it, things that are being left around. So it's definitely, that's a concern. Like, how do you just have to talk to your.
I'm out of touch.
Brenda does the deep sigh.
All right.
I don't know. I've always said, and this was long before it was a recreational thing, but with medical marijuana, and it's because I've grown up that way, I guess. I'm like, you know what? If I do need a prescription of medical marijuana at some point, I want to be able to go into my doctor's office or Walgreens or whatever pharmacy I go to and get it. I didn't want to go to some little house on the corner. It's like, just make it all, if there's a medicinal benefit. But
then you're putting it back in the Pfizers of the world and all that stuff.
But I just want it to be, if I need
Versus
it.
a private
Exactly. Well, that's why I
Oregon
sigh.
pot company. Yes. There are no clear answers.
We didn't solve the world's problems this morning?
I have a
we did
team
not.
group. Their number one concern for their fellow students. Interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you
yes.
gotta go, Brenda.
I gotta go too.
I do. I just
Everyone's
looked at
running
the time.
Sunrise Extra.
Thank you guys for weighing in. We really appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna go